Hey gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk. I'm Corey and this is my dad's 2021 V6 powered Toyota Avalon, and this is the 2023 Toyota Crown, the vehicle that replaced the Avalon. This one only comes with a 4-cylinder under the hood. This is the top trim Platinum with the HybridMAX powertrain, and it is quite powerful and more efficient. In this video, I'm going to take you on a quick tour of both of these vehicles, show you where maybe the Toyota Avalon outclasses the Crown, and then we'll take both for a quick drive, see how they compare. Stay tuned. Yes, gearheads, before we get too far into this one, I do want to say a huge thank you to my parents for loaning me their Avalon, and for Toyota themselves for bringing me this Crown to test for you. We've had it a full week. We have 3 videos on this one. This video that you're watching, our typical family review with Holly behind the wheel, and then believe it or not, I actually got my dad behind the wheel of this Crown to see if he prefers this turbocharged, hybridized 4-cylinder over the V6 in his Avalon. And I guess that would be a great place to start this video. Let's talk about what actually motivates both of these vehicles. In the Avalon, the outgoing vehicle of the two, last made for the 2022 model year, we have a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6, mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission, mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and making 301 horsepower, 267 pound-feet of torque. The EPA rates it at an estimated 22 mpg city, 31 highway, 25 combined. And one huge plus I will already give to this is the hood structure. You can see right here, we are supported by 2 gas-powered struts, which makes it very easy to get in and see this 3.5 liter V6. So that is a very nice touch. Moving over to its replacement, I did mention we have the top trim Platinum, which comes with the new HybridMAX powertrain. The XLE and Limited trims get a Toyota traditional hybrid system, but this is their new HybridMAX powertrain. We get a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and 2 electric motors, one sandwiched between the engine and the 6-speed automatic transmission. So we lost 2 cylinders and 2 gears over the Avalon. And we also have a rear water-cooled eAxle, as they call it, rear electric motor on this one, making all Toyota Crowns all-wheel drive. So that is a very nice touch. We get the added benefit, added security of additional power and additional traction back at those rear wheels. The total output of this vehicle is 340 combined horsepower and 400.1 pound-feet of torque. The engine alone makes 264 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque. Like I said, 6-speed automatic, but all-wheel drive. So when comparing the power plants of these two vehicles, the fuel economy and power and traction definitely goes to the Crown, but the Avalon definitely has one up on it because, as you can see from the Crown, we get a manual prop rod holding up the hood of the Crown. So there are some benefits to that older profile and older platform of the Avalon. Closing the hoods of the two vehicles, you definitely notice a difference in style, but you can tell that they are both from the same family, and similar designers pinned both of them, because you can see here my biggest critique of the Avalon is just how much grille is on the front of this vehicle. It feels like it's all grille, and that has been somewhat of a knock for me. You can see though, not all of it is actually open. So this large center section serves as your bumper, though it is meant to look like the rest of the grille. We have some openings down here below and up above. And yes, we do have functional air curtains that allow air around the front of the vehicle. One thing I really like about the front of the Avalon, we have LED headlights, running lights, and turn signals, and we have very cool sequential turn signals here on the Avalon. Contrast that to the looks of the new Crown, and you can see, again, very familiar overall styling, but definitely updated and modernized. The overall shape of the grille is very similar, but the way they went about it is very different. You can see we still get an upper opening there above the very large, even larger faux grille on the Crown. The dead space on the front of this Crown is much more massive than the dead space on the front of the Avalon, but it does fade into a functional grill down here, down below. You can see it does transition at the very bottom of this, but all of this is closed off. The aero bits on this one, you can see we do not have side air curtains going around the side of this vehicle, but we do get full LED headlights, running lights, turn signals. But unfortunately, the turn signals on the Crown are not sequential, so they don't look quite as cool. So when it comes to front end styling, it really is pick your flavor here between the two of them. I really like the more modern, updated look of the Crown versus the Avalon when it comes to front end styling. But those sequential turn signals are just so cool. The Avalon, as we move our way around the side of the vehicles, you can see the Avalon has a more traditional big sedan silhouette and profile. You can see the big window box on it with that trailing rear window going back to that big trunk. I've been joking that the Avalon definitely is Big Booty Judy of the two of these, and you'll see why here just in a little bit. But a generally nice, pleasant big sedan profile here on this one. And you can see we've got 18-inch wheels here on my parents' Limited. And as we contrast that over here to the Crown, this is a very different vehicle all the way around in the way the designers went about it. This has a much more coupe-like or Sportback-like rear end on it. You can see that roofline just follows all the way down the trunk, almost completely obliterating the trunk line on this one. There really isn't much of a trunk at all. And while the Crown has a slightly shorter wheelbase than the Avalon with a slightly longer overall length, she don't look like Big Booty Judy when you look at the sides of the Avalon directly next to the Crown. The Crown just hides how big the back end is with that sloping rear roofline and the overall design here on the side of the vehicle. Another thing I really like, in addition to that sloping roofline, is how the vehicle just kind of gets wider and has this very round, voluptuous rear hip line here in front of the rear wheels. These are very large wheels as well. These are 21-inch 10-spoke wheels wrapped in Michelin Primacy Tour tires. We've sampled them in many different vehicles. They're a good road tire, but when was the last time you saw a 21-inch wheel and tire on a car, much less a Toyota car? I would definitely say the looks department on the side, this is definitely more wild and in your face. It is a much more modern look than the Avalon on which it replaces. This has definitely been turning heads and causing a lot of conversation online when I show my friends and stuff this. This is definitely the more striking of the two vehicles. And this is actually launching a sub-brand for Toyota. So we are about to get the hatchback, wagon-like, Subaru Outback-like Toyota Crown Signia that we saw at the LA Auto Show. So if you want more of a traditional SUV, that is definitely going to be more it for you. Coming around to the back of the Avalon, you can see, again, those very cool sequential turn signals back here. We do still get all LED lighting, which is really nice, but I really like those waterfall sequential turn signals. You can see Avalon spelled out here back on the back. We have a electronically opening rear trunk that is spring-loaded and will open all the way when you hit the remote release button, which is a nice touch. We have 16.09 cubic feet of cargo space back here, so a rather spacious trunk to be sure. And one knock I will bring to account here is the hinges on this will crush your luggage. if you aren't careful when loading the vehicle up. We do have a 60/40 split bench rear seat, but the latches are only back here in the back, and it is a really far away to actually push that down when you pull that here. So you better hope that it stays unlatched and you walk around to the side of the vehicle. But overall, very large, very nice trunk. And unfortunately, unlike the Crown that we'll see here in a second, there's no like grab handle underneath here. So if the back of your vehicle is dirty, or if you're wanting to keep it pristine and clean without fingerprints, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to be grabbing the trunk to bring it to a close here on the Avalon. Contrast that to the sloping rear roof line, trunk line of the Crown back here. Very interesting look on the Crown. We get a very slim lighting profile on this. We get that full width LED light bar, very small LED turn signals and brake lights. Not a lot of lighting back here, really. It is very minimalistic. And then you can see we've got that Crown badge across the middle. We've got the HybridMAX here on the left and the Platinum on the right. Everything back here is black to contrast against the Bronze Age paint job of this one. The paint color of my parents' Avalon is actually called Opulent Amber, and in direct sunlight it does look more brown than black, but here it does look very black. We do have an electronically opening trunk here, but it is not spring-loaded, so you're going to have to lift it yourself. And you open it up to a slightly smaller trunk, 15.2 cubic feet back here in the Crown. Very similar hatches or latches for the 60/40 split bench rear seat, and very similar hinges that will crush your luggage if you aren't careful. Whatever is down below here, this is actually where Toyota hides the vehicle battery, back here in the trunk. But yes, slightly smaller trunk space here in the Crown. Very similar to the definitely mid-sized Toyota Camry. Nearly identical numbers, but very wide, very deep trunk. Very large within the segment, but still a little bit disappointing that it is smaller than the vehicle it replaces. We'll go ahead and note you do have a false load floor here, hiding your temporary spare and all of the equipment. And you can actually use this as a hook to latch it right here, so you can actually get to all of that stuff back in the back. And as I alluded to with the Avalon, we do get a little handle here, so we can simply pull that one closed. Now, one of the big news points of the Toyota Crown's launch was its higher hip point. And while you only get about ½ an inch more ground clearance in that lifted or raised vehicle of the Crown, you get a whole lot more usable ingress-egress in the Crown versus here in the Avalon. The overall height of that vehicle is about 4 inches taller than this Avalon, and I think I found about where that is. Hip point, or H point, is the measure from the ground to where your hip lands in the seats. And so for that, I have brought a tape measure and a level so that I can show you right in my driving position here. Make sure I can get it where you can see it on camera. I'm going to go ahead and make sure the level is level and show you we've got just about 21 inches from the ground to this seat. Now let's see how that compares in the raised SUV-like Toyota Crown. The Crown does sit 4 inches taller than the Avalon, but how does that translate to that hip point number? Again, we'll go ahead and get this level about as level as I can on the fly. And yes, we have right at 26 inches of distance from the ground to the seat here. So again, measuring from the same point on the front of the seat to the ground, 4 inches of difference here in the Crown, which does translate into making it easier to get in and out of. It is definitely noticeable when you've got these vehicles back to back, and it definitely rides and feels more like an SUV here in the Crown. As we come up to the Avalon, again, this is a limited trim, so it's not apples to apples, but you can see typical Toyota key, lock, unlock, trunk release, and a panic button. We do have passive entry on this one. You can lock it by pressing right there, unlock it just by touching on the back of the door handle, And there you go, you are in. Only on the front doors, not on the back doors. As we open the doors, you can see they are very nicely styled. We get a lot of stitching here, a little bit of wood accents, 2-person memory, express up, down, all the way around. Your mirror controls, but no power folding mirrors here. So that is a little bit of a difference. Again, these aren't apples to apples on trim. 8-way power seat with 4-way lumbar here on the Avalon Limited, and heated and ventilated front seats that are, again, a little overly styled, perhaps, with the stitching and everything on them. Let's go ahead and pop in. Definitely feels like a lower vehicle when you get in this one. I'm going to put my foot on the brake, push the engine start button, and you can see we have a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, which is a nice touch. And back behind them, we get a very large digital helper screen between analog gauges for the fuel, tach, speed, and your engine temperature. There, all that. Very similar to some other Toyota products running on the older platform, much like the last Sienna we drove. Very similar Toyota controls here on the steering wheel. All feels very familiar to any other Toyota product we've been in lately, really. We have a few buttons here over our left knee: automatic high beams, traction control, heated steering wheel, fuel door, trunk release. Over here is your trip and odometer button, as well as your screen brightness, your gauge cluster brightness back there. We get a smaller infotainment screen here running Toyota's old infotainment system, but it does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto when it is wired. A couple of vents here. Dual zone climate controls, which is nice. Heated and ventilated front seats that remember where you had them set the last time you were in the vehicle. Nice row of buttons right here. Very clean and simple design. We do have a little bit of storage hidden under this tray right here, but it's just kind of interesting how it's kind of narrow back behind here. I don't know, just all around interesting look. Again, we do have an 8-speed automatic transmission in this with a mechanical gear selector that when you put it in reverse, you can see we get a nice view out the back on the rear view camera on this. Any vehicle made after 2014 is federally mandated to have that, but no 360 cameras here on our limited model. Again, not apples to apples. We get a couple cup holders, very interestingly shaped right here, but all around do the job very nicely. 3 drive modes in this: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Dedicated buttons, I really like that. Brake hold button right there, and then your electronic parking brake right there. That does engage when you put it in park. Very large center console here with a felt line tray, USB-A interface for the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though we do have a USB-C for power and a USB-A for power. All the way around, very nice up here. Looking in front of the passenger, we get more of that wood, more wood look over there. Very interesting glove box here in that it really is just a small little tray or small little door with a deep slot back there in the back. The front doors are very nicely styled, as are the seats. Up above us, we have a standard size sunroof right here with a manual sliding shade. Very nice. Pretty good headroom up here. Nothing that I would complain about or lament back here. Moving to the back seat of the Avalon, the doors open nice and wide. You can see there's plenty of room back there. No sunshades or anything to speak of here. Just a simple window control there on the door. Very nicely styled seats, but we're going to go ahead, pop in behind myself. Plenty of legroom. In fact, I feel like this seat is a little bit further back for the entry-exit mode, but you can see over there, plenty of room behind the front seats. This really is a large vehicle. Map pockets on the back of both front seats. Couple of air vents back here. Single heated outboard seats right here. USB-C and USB-A power back here. All around, very nice. And then we do have a center console that does just flop all the way down to the seat bottom. Now, the headroom back here is actually pretty good because we don't have a large glass roof or anything. All around, pretty good headroom back here. Much like the Avalon, typical key from Toyota: lock, unlock, trunk release, panic button. And this does have remote start, so does the Avalon. You simply press the lock button twice, hold it for the third time, and it will start up. Because the Crown uses Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, the vehicle will actually stay on after you remote start it and unlock it or open a door. This does have passive entry as well. And you can see when you lock the doors, the mirrors actually fold in. When you unlock it, they unfold. All 4 doors on our Platinum trim have that passive entry, which is a nice touch. Opening the door, again, a much higher sitting position in this, 4 inches of additional hip point access in this one, so that is very nice. Very simplistic design here on the interior. Very simple and clean, more modern look. No elaborate stitching or any fake wood look or anything like that, but we do get some nice gold touches throughout. You can see power fold mirror controls. We do have a 2-person memory up here. All your window controls, your window lockout, and your lock controls right here. Coming down to the seat controls themselves, 8-way power with only 2-way lumbar in this, so we lose the vertical adjustment of the lumbar on the seats. Again, a more simple design to the seats, but we get echoes of that gold accenting, which I think is very nice, but it does look like a typical Toyota seat. Coming around and sitting in, it is a much easier vehicle to get in and out of. Go ahead and put my foot on the brake, start the vehicle up. Nothing really happens. There, the engine comes on, but because it is a hybrid, the engine doesn't have to come on. It can sit here and be on with the electric motor running. Go ahead and start over my left knee. I like how Toyota brings some of these buttons up. We still get the automatic high beams, but we get heated washer fluid, which is a nice touch, and a couple of poverty blinks here to let you know that there could be something, but we just don't have it. We have our brightness controls and our odometer button hidden behind the steering wheel here, your trunk release and your fuel door release right here, a manually tilt telescope steering wheel, so no power tilt telescope, even here in this top trim against the limited version of the Avalon that had a power adjustable steering wheel, which is interesting. Typical Toyota controls laid out a little bit differently, and then we get a 12.3-inch fully digital gauge cluster here. Yeah. And one glaring omission in the Crown, while the Crown does have full digital gauges, it does not have a head-up display. So you can see we've got a very nice head-up display in this that does employ the traffic sign recognition. We've got our speed, our RPMs, and our lane keeping information displayed there in front of us. Because the Crown gets a full digital instrumentation cluster, I don't feel like it needs it, but it is a really nice touch to have a head-up display even here on the not top trim limited version of the Avalon. Kind of a big miss for that Crown. No head-up display in this one, which is a little bit of an oversight, but this speed sign is really easy to see and glance at, so no big complaints right here. You can change what is in each of these sections, both in the left, center, and right pods of this, depending on what you want to see. I really like seeing where the power is going and coming from, as well as my economy, and then my adaptive cruise information right there. It is very simple to read, although it isn't my favorite layout. I feel like Toyota could have done just a little bit more, and I really do lament no head-up display in this one. We do get the new Toyota infotainment system, 12.3-inch gauge cluster, or 12.3-inch screen here, which is very nice. There's no dedicated home screen on this one, so whatever you have it on is whatever you're going to see. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I just don't have it connected right now, but this also does support wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto through a USB-A port. We get a single volume knob here, no tuning knob, which in reality is a little bit annoying when trying to find the right station. Couple of air vents back here, and then your dual zone climate controls. Fairly simple, fairly nice. You can see we have auto heated and ventilated front seats, so you can set it to auto based on your temperature and the temperature outside. The seats will figure out whether or not they'll turn on to heat or ventilation or neither. You can see neither is happening right now. Same with the heated steering wheel. You can set that to auto, which is really nice. and we can sync both of them very nicely. All very easy. Once you figure out what does what, it is a very simple system to use. A little bit different layout to the storage here. We do have a Qi wireless charger that is vertical in this one. Holds my iPhone 14 Pro Max quite nicely. But then we've got all this space right in front of it that I'm not quite sure what you're supposed to do with. So I think the Avalon had just a little bit more usable room up here for storage. But we do have a little bit of storage here. This is removable, so you can have a little bit wider opening. A couple cup holders right here, and then the new actuator for the 6-speed automatic transmission in this. Simply push it over and up to go into reverse. That triggers your backup camera, your full 360 cameras on this one. And because this is running the new infotainment system, we get that invisible car view in this one, which I really like. You can see the vehicle remembers what was around us as we pass over it, and makes the vehicle go basically invisible. So now I can see underneath me. As I move forward, we get this cool kind of bird's eye look of the vehicle as we drive around. Very interesting look, and you can set this to automatically come on at low speeds, which is a really nice touch. Go ahead and push back and park. Because we have 6 drive modes in this, we get a selector button here instead of a button for each drive mode. So you can see we have custom, Sport, S Plus, Sport S, Normal, Comfort, and Eco. We've been driving around in Eco a bunch, and as soon as this splash screen goes away, you will see the fuel economy we've been seeing, 26.4, which is a little bit lower than what the EPA estimates. The center console is about the same size, but it has this unique dual opening lid from either side instead of being one big lid that pivots backwards. I really like that. Very similar style glove box here in that you've got a little door and a massive slot that goes back. And then a very clean, simplistic look to the entire dash. I really like all the gold accents that is echoed here on the steering wheel and across the entire front. This really does feel like a Lexus product more than it does a Toyota product. Just the fit, feel, finish, and design in here is a little more tame and toned down. Everything is just kind of sleek and simplistic. As we look up, we do have a full glass roof. This is not a sunroof. The glass does not open, but we do have a roller shade that can cover the glass. This is a structural brace. You cannot see it from the outside, but the entire roof is one big piece of glass that is simply viewable here on the inside. Me at 5'10", I've got plenty of headroom with that. No real complaints in this one. Let's go ahead and pop out and see what the space looks like back behind me in the rear seat of the Crown. These have very similar overall dimensions, but we'll see how that compares here in just a second. I like how they moved the heated seat button to the doors here, so it's just a little easier for rear seat passengers to access. There you can see the rear seat. Very nice, very simplistically styled. Again, more of those echoes of gold. I really like the headrests back here in the back. As we sit behind myself, again, plenty of room, map pockets behind both seats, just like up there. We do have air vents back here, 2 USB-C ports back in the back. So very well kept passengers back here in the back. Center fold down armrest that, yeah, folds all the way down. I don't know why Toyota does this. We do have a couple cup holders in it, but I really wish this stayed parallel instead of feeling like it broke. That's just a little bit of a cheap design to me. They also do that in the Camry and the 4Runner. And then, yeah, the rear headroom, because of this massive roller shade, you had to sit back in this one. Even though we have very similar headroom numbers, I'd say the back seat is really more favorable in the Avalon than here in the Crown. Though the Crown is easier to get in and out of, so it really is what is more important to you. That is enough of the tour of both of them. Let's hop in the Avalon first, see how that one drives. Then we'll get back here in the Crown, see how it compares to that V6. Getting in the Avalon, starting it up, 8-speed automatic transmission, setting off. See how this one handles. This is 301 horsepower V6, front wheel drive only. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in sport. Empty parking lot ahead of me. Firmly on the brake, firmly on the gas. Skirts the tires. and through the gears, it'll skirt the tires. Very interesting. So this V6 will put the power down, and as the 8-speed automatic rolls through the gears and shifts, it'll make those tires squeal on the smooth parking lot pavement. But as we pull out onto the road here, I'm going to put it back in eco because that's where my dad typically drives this vehicle, and set out. I can tell you at speed, this does get a little bit floaty because this vehicle is designed a little bit more for comfort than it is true sport driving, even though there is a sport button right here. I can also say I really like the head-up display in this. I like that it has traffic sign recognition. I can very clearly see on the road ahead of me what the posted speed is and what my current speed is, as well as my driver aids, my lane keeping, lane centering here in front of me on the head-up display. Really is a good vehicle. I get a little bit of road noise, I get a little bit of wind noise up here, but it is generally a calm, quiet vehicle. Now, let's go hop in that Crown and see how it compares to this Avalon. Getting in the Crown, setting off in drive. I'm gonna go ahead, put us in a Sport Plus, because again, we are in a wide open parking lot. Come over here, wheels fully straight, firmly on the brake, give it some gas, and let go. This thing will scoot. Toyota claims a 0 to 60 time of 5.7 seconds. On premium fuel, though they only recommend 87 octane for your daily driving. I remember when 5.7 seconds 0 to 60 time was something that the Camaro and Mustang were besting. So that shows you just how old I'm getting. But yes, this is a plenty quick vehicle. It's kind of like an e-supercharger, so to speak, because we've got that electronic rear axle back behind us, giving us all-wheel drive traction. And I mentioned when we were accelerating in that Avalon, from get-go and then shifting from first to second, it spun the Kumo Majesty tires that are on my dad's used vehicle. And definitely, the Crown definitely benefits from all-wheel drive traction. So that is a very nice touch and a very big plus to the Crown. And again, this does have more horsepower, 340 horsepower to the 301 in the Avalon, and 400.1 pound-feet of torque, which the Avalon doesn't even crest 300. So over 100 pound-feet of torque. And again, all-wheel drive traction. This really is a very good platform, and in my time with it, I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in eco. We've seen good fuel economy numbers. We've seen comparable to what my dad's V6 Avalon is getting, but we aren't seeing the EPA estimated numbers. We have done mixed driving in this, and we are seeing 26, 27 regularly. We are not seeing the 30 combined number that the EPA estimates. So that is a slight knock, though I do feel like this is a pre-production unit, so we can forgive a little bit of that. Those 21-inch wheels and tires definitely lend themselves to translating a little more road noise into the Crown than what I felt we were hearing in that Avalon. Though the general driving characteristic of this one, I am sitting 4 inches higher. It is a little bit more a commanding view of the road. And I do feel like the suspension is a little firmer in this. Not harsh, not bumpy, not jarring, but just a little bit firmer to counteract the fact that this is a taller vehicle. And if you plan on driving it sportingly or sport S-plusingly, then yeah, you're gonna want a little bit firmer suspension. But the ride in this, the ride is very good, calm and compliant. You can carve corners with the best of them, even here in eco mode. Like, it does pull some of the power, but it is still a fun and engaging vehicle with over 300 horsepower and over 400 pound-feet of torque. I guess that's why that 0.1 exists there. This really is a blast of a vehicle, and I wish there were more of them on the market. It really does put a smile on your face, and I wish more vehicles existed like this Crown. It really is a good vehicle all the way around. Wow, good job, Toyota. This really feels more Lexus-like than the last Lexus we tested in that Lexus TX. This really is a good vehicle. And while we are on textured pavement, I am surprised at just a little how much noise is translating from the road here into the cabin. I am getting a little bit of wind noise, but I also noticed that in the Avalon as well. So I would say that is more familiar to a large Toyota sedan than it is anything else. The steering is very nice. It is not numb or dull. It is not heavy, though it's not light. I don't have to drive it with my fingertips. I can absolutely throw this thing into corners, even here in eco mode, and have a fun time doing it. With the over 300 horsepower in this and the over 400 pound-feet of torque, you really can drive this sportingly. And the overall shape of this vehicle really does speak to a completely different market than who I felt Toyota was going for with that Avalon. I do totally get why the Avalon name was not applied here to the Crown. It is such a big departure from what the Avalon was doing. And again, Toyota is launching a Crown sub-brand with that new Signia hatchback, wagon, sedan, whatever you want to call it, that we saw at the LA Auto Show coming very soon. So we will see more vehicles with that Crown name affixed to it very soon. Otherwise, this has been a very pleasant vehicle to drive over the time that we've had it. The engine is not obtrusive. The start and stop in traffic is completely unnoticeable. You cannot tell when the engine is on and when you're on electric mode. It really is smooth and seamless. The fact that we've lost 2 cylinders and 2 gears really isn't noticed in this. This thing drives very well and is very calm and compliant. I would absolutely have this vehicle. I really like this vehicle. This Crown proves that sedans are not dead. I really wish more vehicles would be built like this and more people would buy them, that people would invest more in big sedans, because this really is a fun vehicle all the way around. The driving dynamics, even though it is raised, is a much better overall driving experience than a crossover or SUV, and it's just more fun to drive. And this thing really scoots, even here in eco mode. This has been a blast to drive, and there are only a few things that this didn't get that my dad's Avalon did. The spring-loaded trunk, the head-up display, the power tilt telescoping steering wheel, all very odd, interesting omissions from this vehicle, which is at the top of its trim level. They don't get any nicer than this. At $56,000, this has got everything on it, and it's missing a few things over the vehicle it replaced. If you do want to see more from us on this vehicle and many others, including a ride along with both Holly driving and my dad driving in 2 separate videos, absolutely hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell so you are notified when those videos drop. You can find us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, everything at GT Garage Talk, or you can go to gtgaragetalk.com. As for me, here in the Toyota Crown with the HybridMAX powertrain, until next time, gearheads, bye. All right, let's see what we can do from a dead stop, firmly on the brake, flooring the accelerator, Sport S Plus. Let's go. All right. This thing pulls and 60. This thing really does move and has been a blast to drive.